Total acres is about 250 acres. We have about 150 of it planted. We have 13 different varieties on the property, and we're really proud to say that we got some amazing Petite Syrah and obviously our Concannon Clone 7 on the property as well. So we've got some great white blenders and some great red blenders to make some beautiful wines here. To me, it's my favorite grape variety to make because you really do nothing from a winemaking perspective. You let it grow, you let it hang, it gets ripe, it comes off the vine inky and really great structure with great fruit, blueberry flavors. It's a phenomenal wine as a standalone, but a lot of winemakers choose to use it as a backbone for blending. It adds a lot to red blends in general and just red wines in general. It just is a great backbone to make heavy, structured wines. It always goes into my Cabernet as a little to beef it up a little bit. It's one of my favorite blenders for it. But man, I just love it as a standalone. It really is. Our Captain Joe's and our Nina really reflect what Livermore Valley can do with Petite Syrah. You know, there could be. I've heard some stories about ghosts in the past, but friendly ones. So only positive ones that want to get out in the vineyards late at night with us when we're looking at the vineyards and checking the bricks at night and when we're harvesting. But I've only heard good stories about some ghost stories here. When the Concannons came here and bought this piece of property, it was just land. And so for them to really establish the fact that they wanted to be grape growers and winemakers is pretty amazing. And what they've done to the industry itself, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later on, is just phenomenal of how they really supported the Cabernet story. Looking at these pictures as you walk the property and you see some of the barrels that they use and how they moved the barrels back in the day, and the horse-drawn buggies when they harvest the grapes going through these very wide rows that you can't plant like that anymore in California. There's no more land. So when you walk out to our mother vine today and see how they grew things back in the 60s, it's pretty fun to see that history and what they did back in the days. It's phenomenal. It totally. Every time I walk out there, I was like, wow, you know, the way that I make wine now is completely different than what they did back in the day. But it's funny. But if you look at this, if you walk our property, we have an old press that they used back in the early 1900s, and we refurbished it. But the technology of that wooden press is the exact same technology that we use to this day. It's just stainless steel. So they had it right back then with the basket press. It's just, you know, with hydraulics now versus levers and stuff like that. So, it is fun to go back in time and go, wow, and the wines back there were probably amazing then as they are now.
There's a vintage from the Smithsonian, I think it's in the 20s, Prohibition era, that we still have on the history wall.
Wow.
Wait a minute, you said it was Prohibition era?
1920s, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So we made altered wine.
Oh, of course, it was altered wine.
That's how we survived.
Altered wine.
That's right. Yeah, in more than ways than one, yeah. They survived it, they got through it, and we consider those the black days or the dark days of the wine industry, and coming out of it, they came out of it pretty strong, being able to keep things rolling and keep the employees going and keep winemaking going, and a testament to their strength and passion. Well, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad was he was in the finance side of businesses, and so he ended up being a CFO of a very large Central Valley winery, and so I just grew up in the industry. And my parents did divorce at a fairly young age, and so my mom moved me out to Alabama to where her family was from, and I grew up on a farm there, and it was the best thing because I learned how to grow cotton and peanuts, and I was, working on the farm there. And then my summers were with my dad back in California. And summertime is harvest time. And so what he did is maybe go to work every summer. And so one year, or many years, I worked in the cellar, I worked in a laboratory, I worked on the bottling lines, and one year I worked in the vineyard. So I just started developing this passion at a pretty young age. The one year I decided that I wanted to really become a winemaker is when I got to shadow a winemaker at this facility. And that's when I go, man, making wine's cool. And it's a lot of fun. And I love the science behind it. And you still have the growing aspect of it. So my senior year in high school, believe it or not, I actually moved to California so I can get in-state tuition at Fresno State. And so I ended up going to Fresno State and went through the enology program there, which I learned a lot and had a lot of fun. And so I've been making wine since 1998. That's a fun question. I've been in the wine industry since '98, but I also I've made wine in other countries, and so I've traveled to Italy and Spain and New Zealand and even Australia. So it's hard to say how many vintages I have, but if I were to guess, I'd probably have at least 30, 35 vintages probably underneath my belt. If I spend 5 years there, I don't think I would learn enough to understand, how to properly understand the Italian laws and all the regulations. But being able to make Prosecco, being able to make the Pinot Grigio when I was over there, and still do this day, it's so much fun. But we also have a great support system there that helps in the learning process of it. But those vines over there just are phenomenal. It's such a picturesque area, and it's beautiful, and everything about it. I love going back. I go back every year. So from the Asti region all the way over to the right to the Veneto region. Even made some Moscato d'Asti while I was there. Just fun stuff. When you're there, everyone speaks the same language in regards to either you're a grower or you're a winemaker, or you have some type of support system, or you're involved in the industry in some way. Well, it's probably advice that I've taken throughout my career is have fun. It's probably not crazy, but it's the best thing. I mean, this is not a job for me. This is not work. I come to work and I come to the winery, and it's like the stress just comes off. You're out in the vineyard. You're with nature. You're looking at the vine's progress throughout the growing season. You get excited when harvest gets close. Harvest is really about the celebration of all that hard work you did in the vineyard prior up to that, and then just going through the vinification process and fermentation and seeing what that vintage is going to look like before it comes off the vine, and then after. It's just really this. I've always said this to everyone. I've got the coolest job. I really, really do, and I love everything about it. One thing that we've done really well in Livermore and the Concannons itself is this. Being able to protect what we have. And I think that's very important. We have our property in a tri-conservancy, and so the property will never be taken from us. And so it has to be agricultural land forever. And so that's really something that's very important, that sets the tone for we're committed. And this is what we want to do, and I want to set the tone for that next generation to come in after me to be able to make wine. So I think that's a great commitment that what we've done. So obviously land, having it available to us forever is super important for our sustainability moving forward. But yeah, being a winemaker, we're faced with so many environmental issues and regulatory issues, and just water itself is an issue. And Mother Nature always is throwing curveballs at us constantly. Every winemaker wakes up and looks at the weather during the growing season, and it's probably the most important thing that we work through and understand, and climate change and stuff like that when it comes to vineyards. So you can follow me on Instagram, which is james.w.foster, and I do a lot of wine fun stuff on my Instagram. But if you go to the winegroup.com or concannonvineyard.com, you can learn all about us and our history and a little bit more about me.